Hey y'all, it's Coach K, and I am the owner of Level 27 Life Coaching and Advising. I'm what you would call a spark plug. I'm the coach that you call when you need help transitioning. I help young adults to simply get started, develop a plan of action, increase their mental stamina, and take ownership of their experience. My ultimate goal in life is to help others realize their potential and capitalize on their opportunities. So today on the highlight reel, we're talking about imposter syndrome. All right, so many of you may not know what this term is, but I bet you've experienced it, or you've at least experienced the symptoms of imposter syndrome. So let me give you a brief description of what it means. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines this as a false and sometimes crippling belief that one's success are a product of luck or fraud rather than skill. So in other words, it means that someone can reach a certain level of success and they'll get there and feel like they're an imposter. They'll feel like they are fraudulent and that it wasn't their skills that got them there. It wasn't their mind that got them there. They feel like it's literally luck and that they can be exposed at any moment. And at times it causes people to be very, very hooked on being a perfectionist and like focused on making sure that they do everything right, because they feel like they don't deserve to be in the position that they're in. This is a horrible space to be in because you tend to experience a couple of symptoms that could be very, very hard to deal with, especially if you're dealing with them all at the same time. Some of the symptoms of imposter syndrome includes anxiety, perfectionism, self-doubt, and fear of failure. I'm sure that all of us have experienced at least one of those symptoms in our lives, if not all, but some of us may not have experienced imposter syndrome just yet. Although I haven't personally experienced imposter syndrome, I have helped a lot of people to overcome or to deal with and maintain while dealing with imposter syndrome. And I've also felt and dealt with the symptoms of imposter syndrome. So I feel like I'm qualified to speak on the topic. I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of, working with others to try to help them get over this thing. And so I just want to introduce to you a method that I like to call FLIP. It's an acronym that stands for free yourself, learn the process, inspire others, and gain perspective. This is something that I implemented in my life when I was going through 2020 trying to get my life together, because as you know, 2020 was a crazy year for all of us. We all had so much time to think. We had so much time to be with ourselves and in our own thoughts. And I will tell you that 2020 was the year that I truly learned how to receive. And I will also say that that is the year where I felt like I was being impacted by the imposter syndrome symptoms. And I had to figure out how to dig myself out of those funks and remind myself of why I'm here, what God has given me, what's important, and understand that speaking up and talking to others is valid and very valuable for your recovery when it comes to this thing. I truly believe that it's easier to deal with imposter syndrome if you're able to identify the symptoms and attack them as they come. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I feel like the more we talk about it, the more we normalize the terms, the better it is for others to be able to attack it as soon as they see it coming on. Okay, I want to honestly say that there are 1,000,001 amazing, great individuals in this world. There are people with talents upon talents on top of talents. And I believe that a lot of times we tend to start to feel those symptoms of imposter syndrome or feel like it's coming on when we tend to veer off and look at other people's lanes. And this week, I just really want to encourage you to know that it's okay that you can coexist with greatness. Great people coexist with great people. Iron sharpens iron. So whenever you're in a circle or in an atmosphere where there's people who are great, that have amazing talents, that have, unique abilities, that's a great place to be because that's a great company to have. I believe that imposter syndrome starts to seep in because the enemy doesn't want you to believe that you're one of those great people as well, but you are. God created you in his image. That means that you have your own unique set of talents and abilities You have your own unique way of doing things. You have your own unique pathway. And if you're focused on worrying about why you're there and why you deserve to be there, you're going to miss the ship, or you're going to miss the train that leads you to discovering those gifts and those traits and those characteristics that God has placed on your life. Honestly, we have this thing called God's favor. And sometimes the things that you have, you don't deserve. And let's be honest, some of the stuff that we have, we don't deserve. We were given these things because God favors us. And we have a responsibility to do our part to maintain that thing and see that the mission is carried out, or whatever the assignment is complete. And so we have to understand that regardless of what's going on around us, who's around us, and what we've been given, that if God placed us there, He has given us everything we need to sustain and to create and thrive in that space. So it starts with acknowledging that your source is God, and you got to understand where your strength comes from. And once you're able to understand that, you're able to accept the space that you're in a lot easier, because you understand that it's not totally you doing these things. You have a great, powerful God working on your behalf that is ordering your steps. So you step into spaces knowing that if God called me here, that means I'm supposed to be here. That means that God has given me what I need to sustain here. And it all starts with acknowledging Him first. But practical skills that you can do to make sure that your mind doesn't take over, that negative thoughts don't take over, is by simply first and foremost freeing yourself. That means that you have to examine your thoughts and your feelings to figure out where you're being triggered. Like, where are these thoughts and feelings coming from? After you figure out where they're coming from, you have to call them by name. You know, whenever you give something a name, or you can identify something, it's a lot easier to find a solution to fix it or find resources to help with it when you're able to name it. So that is the first step. Step 2 is to learn the process. And what I mean by this is you want to redefine what it is you just discovered. When you figure out what your triggers are, you're able to utilize that to your advantage. You can basically keep the trigger and change the behavior. If you know that certain things trigger you, you can build in things that will help you manage those moments, or you can build in extra support to help you deal with those moments. It's really good if you document these things in a journal so that you can go back to them and refer to them whenever you're having an episode. This will help you to recognize when something is coming on so that you can combat it immediately and get rid of it immediately. You're going to look over your experiences and look for slivers of hope. You're going to look for, moments of wisdom and hardships that taught you something. Gathering that knowledge and gathering that information helps you to know that you can overcome it again. In this space, you'll want to remind yourself of your why. You'll want to remind yourself of the journey that you've taken to get to this goal. You'll want to remind yourself of the hours you put in the projects that you've done. And remind yourself of what God has told you about you. Step number 3 will be inspiring others. And what this means is basically opening your mouth and talking. Now, I know the last thing you want to do is talk about it, but honestly, this is the best thing you could do, because not only is it helping others, but it's helping you to say it out loud so you can hear it and you can visualize it. A lot of times the things that are in our head are able to thrive because nobody is contesting it. Nobody is challenging it. And so speaking about it is a good way for you to hear it out loud so that you can see it and visualize it for yourself. Also for the people around you to be able to give you a little bit of insight and tell you how they see you and how things may not be how they seem in your mind. It's really good to have a community of people that you can vent to and just share your feelings with, where you're not being judged. You know what I'm saying? It's great to have a village. And so talking about these things really does help you to build that village, because sometimes you discover that other people have been through it. So you ultimately don't feel alone because you see that other people have been through it. Then you also have those people who don't know anything about imposter syndromes. So hearing the terms could low-key help them to start to find their way out of the situation. So the third step is inspiring others, but by inspiring others, you're low-key building a village for yourself as well. And step 4 is perspective. In this step, you have to remember who you are in Christ. You have to remember that you were made in God's image and that whatever God has for you is for you because your story has already been written. God created us with the intentions of us having greatness or being great. And so a lot of times we have to get out of our own way and really just understand that we have to start seeing ourselves the way that God sees us. And I know that's difficult because we're not God. But honestly, the more you dive into your word, the more you read the Bible, the more you allow yourself to hear sermons and just absorb God's word, the more you'll be able to understand his methods and his thoughts behind why he's doing certain things and how he speaks to us. You have to also remember that God is your one true source. He is the ultimate source. And so if he is the person supplying your needs and your strength and your thoughts and your wisdom, you have to remember that his rejection is your protection. And things aren't always going to be perfect, but that's just how it goes. And also, you have to understand that extraordinary things will happen that you can't explain. There's a great thing called God's favor, and sometimes God's favor shines on a lot of us in a major way in certain seasons, meaning some doors will be open that you wouldn't expect. Some opportunities will be given to you that you wouldn't expect. And although we didn't earn them ourselves or don't deserve them, that does not mean that we have not been groomed to be in that space. God has a way of using our experiences to grant us the wisdom and the knowledge that we need to maintain and do the things that he's called us to. At times he's going to place us in situations that seem overwhelming or too much for us to handle. But honestly, all we have to do is continue to do the last thing that he told us to do and continue to trust him as we journey throughout. And he will make sure that we are taken care of. He's going to be sure to continue to give us direction step after step if we keep him first and keep seeking him first. Ultimately, I believe that the best thing you can do when it comes to battling imposter syndrome or the symptoms of an imposter syndrome is making sure that you understand your definition of success, your why, and who your source is. When you have these 3 things on lock, you're able to understand that although things may not work out the way you want them to, and although things are shifting rather quickly and you have to adjust on the fly, you understand that this is going to be okay. Things are going to happen the way they're supposed to happen, and what will be because God is in control. When you trust God, you'll always find your footing no matter what the situation is. Basically, flipping the script is understanding that you can change the narrative because you know the author. And that is the moral of the story. You may not be able to get rid of having those moments where it's rising up in you, but you can change the way that you handle those moments and how you sustain throughout those moments. And I know that God can give you and will give you the strength if you just seek him first and implement the flip method. Please check out our blog, Letting Go of Imposter Syndrome, to get more in-depth details about dealing with imposter syndrome and, challenging your thoughts and finding a new perspective. I've only given you little highlights, but please go check out the blog post on our website at www.level27coaching.com. All right, y'all, until next time, stay focused, trust God, and respect the process. I'm Coach K. Be sure to come follow us at Level 27 Coaching on all social media platforms, and also join our Spark Plug Club at www.level27coaching.com. All right, y'all, have a great week. Be blessed, and remember that with God, you can do everything. I love y'all. Have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye.